If you're not already subscribed, subscribe and join the movement, cause in every single video, I try to go even further beyond. Today we're doing What If Deku Had Half Light, Half Dark Nomi, which is a crossover of My Hero Academia and One Piece. First, before I start, I want to explain what Deku's powers specifically are and how they work and their weaknesses. So Deku's light side comes from the Pika Nomi, and he's able to shoot beams of light that cause an explosion on impact. Change the light into shapes like a sword, bow and arrow, anything. And he could also travel at fairly fast speeds, but the drawback of this thing, his light can only go in one direction, so in a straight line. So it takes a lot of strategy and thinking and knowing what to do. His other side comes from the dark fruit, the yami Nomi, which allows him to suck everything to him. He's able to absorb attacks, but the weakness to this is if he doesn't activate it at the right time, the attack he was trying to absorb will damage him, but not only damage him, but the attack will be doubled. So keep that in mind. Now we start with the what if. Deku was born into this world weaker than the average human when it comes to strength. Even though his body was seemingly more durable than a regular human's, his attacks never did damage. They couldn't even hurt a fly. When Deku was 3 years old, he would be hanging around with Bakugo and his friends, and they would be playing a little bit in front of the forest. Bakugo would be talking about how he's going to become the best hero once he gets his quirk, and Deku would say that he would do the same once he got his quirk, and this statement caught Bakugo's attention. Bakugo has only ever thought of Deku as a slacky or servant, which that will soon change. He would look at Deku and tell him that he has a challenge for him. Deku, not trying to come off as useless or scared, would say, "What is it, Bakugo?" And Bakugo would tell all of them that they should go inside the forest to build up quote-unquote courage to become a hero. Deku would agree, and they would all go inside the forest as a group. While going deeper into the forest, Deku would say that they should go back, but before he could turn around, he would feel a hand behind him, and he would get pushed and start to stumble and fall. Around 20 feet from the air and land at the bottom of the forest, breaking his arm a little bit and scraping his knee, which I think is incredible. Like, shit, you just fell 20 feet. Like, come on, that's crazy. Deku would start to cry from all the pain and look up and see Bakugo and his friends laughing, and they would start to run away. And Deku in so much pain would pass out. When Deku reawoke, it would be around nighttime, and all Deku could think about was his mom and that she was worried about him. Deku was thirsty and insanely hungry, and anything would work for him. After forcing himself up to crawl and, limp around, Deku would find a river and start to drink like a wild animal from it, and also using the water to wash away his bruises and wounds. While doing this, he would notice a fairly old tree with two strange fruits with weird patterns on them, and Deku would start to swim across the river to the other side, and he could only think of one thing: food. Almost like a savage, he would start to devour the fruits, even though they tasted terrible, with one of them being yellow and the other being dark purple. Deku needed something because he knew that he had to survive. Deku would throw up over and over again, but would keep forcing himself to chew and chew. From all the throwing up, Deku would get a little bit dehydrated and pass out, but this time it was different. He could hear voices and footsteps coming closer to him. Because Deku was gone for so long, Inku would have called the police and they would have interrogated Bakugo and their friends, and they would find out that they had left Deku in the forest. Once Deku awoke in his bed at home, he would have two names, and two names only, ringing in his head right now: Pika and Yami Nomi. Deku would start to hold out his left hand almost as if there was instructions in his head telling him what his powers can do and how they work. A dark portal would start to appear in his palm, and Deku's All Might figure that was on the floor on the other side of the room would rush and end up in his hand. Deku, excited and amazed, would raise his left hand and point at All Might's poster, and a light beam would come out of his fingers, zooming and hitting the poster dead on. And the light beam would also explode, causing big noise. Worried, Inku would rush into his room and yell, "What is that? Are you okay?" And Deku would only look at her, smiling, saying, "I'm gonna make you proud, Mom. I'm gonna become a hero." He would then show Inku his abilities, and him and Inku never really went to the quirk doctor because they didn't see there was a reason to. So Deku never found out he's really quirkless and never put two and two together. Deku's personality would also change, and you would just find out more about this as we go on. When Deku went back to school, he would hate Bakugo a lot, and he wouldn't talk to anyone else, seeing that he had trust issues now. When Bakugo had awakened his quirk, he would go over to Deku and say that he is greater than Deku, and Deku would tell him, "No, you're not. You're really not." Bakugo would get angry at this and start to lose control of his quirk, swinging a right hook at Deku. Deku would hold out his left hand, and portal, his dark side would activate, allowing him to absorb the attack right on time. And Deku would look at the teachers, hoping that they would give Bakugo a punishment because he almost blew off his hand. The teachers said nothing, and Deku would start to get angry and yell at them, "Are you stupid? This dude's explosions could have exploded my arm off." Deku would then push Bakugo to the ground and pick up his backpack and start to leave, with the teachers yelling after him, telling them that the lesson was not done. But Deku would only raise his finger, sending a light beam, which hit the chalkboard and caused an explosion. And Deku continued to leave. After this incident, Deku would have been put to the principal's office, and he says that he doesn't really want to have any classes with Bakugo for a while, which they accepted, and they did that. When Deku reached 15, he was a complete prodigy when it comes to angles and assessing situations. He knew what to do and when to do it. Because his light side really focused on angles, he was able to master that. And other side, like his dark sides, he was able to master the timing on which he should activate it to absorb someone's attacks. Deku was always on top of his class, and he was highly recruited by every single hero school, but he didn't care. He wanted to prove his own strength, his own way, and not take any bullshit like expectations. We go to when the teacher is explaining that all the students want to take the hero path, and mention that Deku and Bakugo were thinking of applying to UA, and Bakugo would say that he's better than Deku, and Deku wouldn't care, and when the day was over, he would just go home. While walking home, a fellow student, which was annoying him, but Deku, trying to be polite, would answer his questions from time to time. The Sludge villain would then pop out and say to them, "Will one of you give me your bodies?" And Deku would start to whisper, "Oh shit, I've heard about these type of people before." He would then look at his classmate and say, "He wants your booty," and then proceed to walk away, leaving his classmate shocked. He would then look behind him and start waving, saying, "Enjoy your new friend, cause that's not about to be me being raped." The classmate, in fear, would start to scream and yell, "Help me, help me," and Deku would turn around and sigh. He would then start to evaluate the situation, and he would use his light side and turning it into a bow and arrow, and hit the wall next to him, next to the Sludge villain, causing an explosion, which the debris from the explosion hit the Sludge villain in the eye, and Deku would use his dark side, and which he used the move that he named Gravitational Pull, kind of from pain, but who cares? He would attract the student, saving him and sending 3 light beams at the Sludge villain, blowing him up. All Might would have arrived saying, "I am here," and Deku would look at All Might saying, you were here? Boy, you're late. And he would pat his classmate on the back and tell him that he should get stronger. And Deku would use his pika light and, go straight ahead, heading home or close to home. So Deku, yeah, he didn't get one for all. So rip, rip. Deku didn't get one for all. Who cares? He's more OP. Alright, let's think about this. If Deku really got one for all, just imagine what this Jit could do. You know what? Go rewatch, You could just go rewatch it, bro. Especially after when Deku's quirk, like his fruits awaken. Alright, bro. Wait, hold up. Did I just spoil it? Not really. But shut up. Fuck. After the 10 months, Deku would have been able to get into UA by recommendation, but he didn't like to take that route, and he wanted to prove to everybody that he was strong on his own without needing to rely on everybody. So we're gonna skip the written exam because yeah, he passed that and there's nothing interesting there. And we will start at the fighting portion. Deku also never tripped and talked to Uraraka when he was walking around, so yeah. Deku is, looking around, and Ida would get suspicious and walk over to him and tell him that he shouldn't think about sabotaging anyone. Deku, completely different from Canon, would get annoyed and just tell him to shut up and walk away. Ida would call him disrespectful and go to grab Deku, but his hand would go through Deku, and this is his Logia fruit, like ability. President Mike would tell them all to calm down and say that the students should begin. Deku would see the door to the practical exam open a little bit, and he would immediately turn its light and go through it. As he's on the other side, he immediately spotted three 2-point robots, and he would use his dark side to engulf them into darkness, completely crushing them. As the doors opened wider, the other participants would see what is happening, and they would start to yell that he is cheating, but President Mike would say to them that there are no cheaters in a real fight. He would then yell at them that they should follow Deku's lead. Deku would keep on spotting 3-point robots, and they would charge at him, slashing at him, but Deku would only shoot a light beam and destroy them. As he continued to get more points, Deku was around 65 points, and he would hear the ground shaking. When he looked around, he saw 8 humongous 0-pointer robots. Like, humongous, alright? And 8 of them, shit. He couldn't even handle 1 in canon. Imagine 8. People were running, and so would I. And the 0-pointers would be bumping into buildings, making a ton of rubble fall down to the floor. Deku saw the destruction that was going around, and a bunch of people were trapped underneath the rubble screaming for help. Deku would think about abandoning them, which I think I would do in this exact situation. I would deadass abandon you, but it depends. Tell me what you would do. Would you abandon this person if you saw 8 humongous robots over here looking like they're from fucking Creed? But we didn't talk about that. And Deku would start to think about how Bakugo betrayed him when he was a child, and he would start to shake in anger, thinking that he can't do to someone else what Bakugo did to him. Not again. Deku would jump on a building and then turn into light, and went into full-on assault mode, alright? He went to save the people trapped in the rubble using his dark powers to engulf the rubble and stop it from falling. He would then shoot a huge beam of light at the 0-pointers, destroying one of them and damaging some of the others. Now this is when Deku gets in his feelings and feels the presence around him. Deku would use a move that he has been practicing for about 10 months, but he has never gotten it correct. But he was hoping that in this moment it would work. Deku would start to form a big sword, or a katana, out of light, and then with his other side, he would engulf it into darkness, combining them, making a huge ass line just going up. As he faced his katana in the air, his hands surging with power, he would slash, yelling, "Light Dimension Slash!" As he slashed, he would cut the robots in half, straight down the middle, all of them exploding, and when the light sword hit the ground, it exploded as well. Deku from the air would start to fall to the floor, using his light to soften his fall. Deku would be very, very worn out from this because it was his first time ever attempting something like this, and he was out of breath. Deku would turn into light and go on top of a building and rest there for the rest of the exam, seeing that he does not want to hog all of the points. This is also an experiment. What if you guys like it, I will do a part 2. So let's set a like goal. 45 likes. 45 likes. 45 likes by tomorrow. That's doable. So just tell me if you like it. I'll do a part 2. And I'm really trying to upload more because I've been so busy with school. And now that I'm on break, I'll be uploading so much more. The next what if that I'm gonna do, well, that's a secret. So, bye. Love you all. Share with your friends, subscribe, and I'll see you later.